Okay, so let's start. This writing task 2 is the same thing for both those for those taking general and academic. It's still the same task 2. The same way you have to write it, the same kind of question. So this particular test type doesn't really, there's no difference. So we're going to learn. Usually in this task 2, they will ask you questions. It could be about your environment. So these are important things you would look after this. I'm going to send this. You just write out synonyms for each of these words, because almost all the questions are coming from this. It's either you're writing about environment, what are possible things they could ask you in global warming, deforestation, pollution, is mostly here. Okay, so but if you should know at least each word, you're able to get up to 3 synonyms for it. It's going to help you. So even if they ask you about food, you know that you can use delicacy, you can use meal, you can use diet. So, and the beauty of doing it, everybody doing it, is that in case if I did not remember that another synonym for food is diet or something like that, then when I see someone else's work, I will now be like, oh, okay, so I can also call it diet. So it's going to help. So it's things you're going to do. Transportation, think of other synonyms. Instead of saying transportation, you can say embarking on a journey, and all the rest. So it's going to help you. Why is it going to help you? In your Ielts writing, formal writing, one of the things they are checking is your vocabulary. So, and each of these you're going to score a mark. So that means in your task achievement, you'll be getting a mark. In your coherence and cohesion, you're getting a mark. By the time you get a mark in 4 of them, they will now look for the average. That's how you get a band score in writing, and get a band score in task 1 and task 2, and then they will still make an average. So if you're already losing a mark in one aspect, it's going to be bringing down your mark. So that's why the best way to learn Ielts is to look at what are the things they are marking, and how can I get a good score in these things. That is what this particular thing is going to help you. So if you should get all the synonyms of all this, think as much as possible. You're free to check your Google, you understand? And but one thing about Google is we've told that severally, there are some words you can get in Google and you can't really use it. It can't fit in perfectly. So I would just say you can first, for a start, before you go to Google, first of all, use your head and think of synonyms. Use your head and think of synonyms. Okay, like if you see computer, what again can I say instead of computer? Technological device. I could say computing device. I could say so by the time you crack your head, at least you're getting 2. That is a good one. So by the time you now check the Google, then you get maybe extra 2. Please, each one you get, try to find the meaning to that one. Don't just take it from Google. Try to find the meaning and see if it fits into what you want to write. Okay. And then internet, the same thing. You can think, okay, what can I put instead of internet? What can I say? You can say things like maybe social media space. You can say a cyberspace and all the rest. So it's going to help you anytime they ask you questions. If they are asking a question, maybe they said discuss about advertisement in your or maybe recently advertisements have been banned in some country. What is your opinion about this? You know how they ask your question. So you know that anything you're writing in that essay, you need to be mentioning advertisement. And if you keep mentioning the same word over and over, you're not getting marked in vocabulary. So, but if you've done this assignment, or if you will do this assignment, you will know other things you use instead of advertisements. Okay, so you know other words and you'll be able to use it. First of all, our advice, use your head first and think. Okay, if there is a way you can differentiate what you thought, what your thoughts gave you, and what you've learned from the internet, from the Google, it's okay, it's better. So by the time you're done all this, please try to, I'm going to still make a screenshot and send on the group so that we are all going to do this. Okay, so most questions are all is day-to-day life. They don't ask you something that you don't know. It's rare. Okay, but even if in some occasion there might be some vocabulary that you might not really, you've not really come across. The way to avoid stories that touch the heart is to do what? Is to what's it called? Check your internet now, do as many research as you can before that day. So we know we are, by now we should know, but I'm still going to touch this, that you're graded in 4 aspects, with 4 criteria. The first one is your task response. So this one is your ability to answer the question, support and develop your ideas, and present a clear position. So any question they ask you, do advantage outweigh the disadvantage? You're meant to answer the question. If you answer that question, maybe in my opinion, there are plethora of benefits, but I assume or I believe that the disadvantage of the pros outweighs the cons, or maybe the merit outweighs the demerit, or maybe what's other advantage outweighs the disadvantage, or the positive side outweighs the negative side. So you have to answer the question. That's one of the things that will give you mark in task response, that you answer the question. Okay, that's why I keep saying, always answer the question. Don't be too fast to answer or go ahead and write. Answering the question number 1 is one of the things they will check. By the time they are reading your list, they will say, did she answer the question? Task response. They will score you based on that. Another thing is support and develop your ideas. Now you're meant to not just give your ideas, why you believe this, why you think this, why this is your opinion, what you think people are saying. Not just giving those ideas. You need to develop it, and you need to support it and develop your idea. So how do you support and develop your idea? Think of a way to explain it further, give examples. Okay, that's the way you can support and develop your ideas. Then you need to present a clear position. That's why I say don't try to sit on the fence. Try to be as clear as possible. If you are of the opinion that benefits outweighs disadvantage, be there. If your opinion, I know maybe in real life you are standing on the fence, if they should ask you to say the truth, you're going to say, either of them or 2 of them are good. You are just the middle. But for the sake of Ielts, please, either you are against that opinion or that belief, or you are for that. So always state your opinion to be clear, because if you stand on the fence, if you are in between, it's going to be hard for you to give a strong evidence that will say, yes, she's in between, she's not being biased. It's very hard for you not to be biased. And of course, you're not going to get a mark in this presenting a clear position. Probably you're not following somebody that asked question. Esther Emmanuel, it seems you've not been following what I write on the chat. I think maybe you should. Please, I don't really like being distracted. I think you should go to the WhatsApp chat and check what I've been writing there, please. Okay, so then lexical resource. I addressed academic and general before I started. I said writing tax 2 is the same thing for whether you're writing academic or general. And our reading is by 12, not by 4. 4 is a different class. And I threw a poll on the group. Those that want 4 PM class, it was there. So Please, before you distract me when I'm doing something, just try to verify it, Joe. Once you do this, you just take me off. Okay. So coherence, your ability to the coherence and cohesion, your ability to logically organize your essay. So you also have to be organized. So you have to use paragraphs. Don't write just jam pack your ideas. You have to use paragraphs. And the rule about paragraph is each paragraph should have something unique about it. The introduction is known to introduce what you're about to write. The paragraph 1 should talk about one part of the essay or answer one part of the question. Paragraph 2 should answer the other side. Paragraph 3, in some cases, you will have up to paragraph 3, and then you have your conclusion. So you have to have a good structure, and then your ideas within the essay, and to use appropriate cohesive devices to do this. So we have what we call the cohesive devices. There are some words. If I tell you maybe I like food, I hate meals, or maybe I like food, I hate rice. So you're going to be like, what is she saying? Which one is I like food, I hate rice? But by the time I tell you I like food, but I hate rice, or maybe I like food, however, I hate rice in particular. So you know that it makes more sense. Okay, she likes eating food, but she just hates this particular thing called rice. However, she actually hates rice, which is maybe the good use of that cohesive device. I've used, however, to kind of make my word or make my whatever I'm telling you to make more meaning. Okay, or maybe I'm telling you there are different things I want to talk about. Give Paul a car, give Miro a water, and okay, and is a cohesive device. Give Miro a water, comma, give John a pool, full stop. When you're reading, you're going to be like, what's the rubbish this person is saying? But by the time I join it, there are things I want to point out. Firstly, or maybe first and foremost, is that you should give John a ride. First and foremost, you know that okay, this is the first option. However, you can give Mary, or maybe in addition, it depends if, however, is when you're about to say the opposite thing or a contradicting thing, then in addition, that means I want to add more to what I've said. In addition, you can also give John a pool. So in addition is a cohesive device. And lastly, you can give Mary a bucket. So lastly, yes, that tells you that yes, this is the last point I'm making. So that is the good use of those cohesive devices, and not just using it, you have to use it right. There are don't just use it anyhow. If you should read, because this is not a lecture on its own. These criteria are lectures on its is a lecture on its own. Okay, if you read enough, or maybe specifically coherence and cohesion, you're going to understand certain things about it. So this is just more like points based. So these cohesive devices, you have to know that using it less, you're losing a mark. Using it more than usual, you're losing a mark. That is, if I start telling you, give John a drink, in addition, also give Mary a water. However, in contrast, also in addition, also is the same thing as in addition. We usually make that mistake. Sometimes if we are writing, we say and also. So therefore, we make that mistake a lot. So and therefore is the same thing. It's tautology. You're repeating the same thing. And also is the same thing. You don't have to repeat it. So using it inappropriately, you're also losing a mark. Okay? So if you're using and, you're using and. If you're using also, you're using also. Okay? Then grammatical range and accuracy. In this grammatical range and accuracy, okay, I've not done lexical resource is the ability to use a range of vocabulary and to use it accurately. So now I've told you that if you get a topic. Maybe the topic is about advertisement. You might be saying a lot about advertisement, advertisement, and advertisement. So for you to get a score in this lexical resource, what do you have to do? You have to think of other ways you could use instead of that particular advertisement. You have to also use some collocations. Collocations are words that are together, that works best together. So all these things are things that will actually give you good score in your vocabulary. Okay, you don't really need to cram your dictionary. Just once you get your paper and this is your question is about transportation, just make a list of what are the synonyms of transportation. So by the time you're writing, you'll be picking them one after the other and be putting, instead of just writing the same transportation or relying on your knowledge. Sometimes your knowledge will help will fail you. By the time you're writing, you'll be thinking, what again can I write about transportation? I've written journey, I've written this, let me just write transportation. You reach again, what can I write now? Should I write journey again or transportation? Let me just write transportation. By the end of the day, you might not have time to go through your work. Some people don't have time to go through their work. And maybe the thing that you wrote, maybe it's 1 journey and 10 transportation. You're still repeating the same thing over and over. You are just allowed to repeat, I think it's 2 or 3 times, at most 3 times. But please, I would just advise you, do not even repeat the word, if possible. Okay, but in some occasions, I think it's acceptable. You can repeat twice or thereabouts. But that, of course, should mean that you should have other vocabularies too that could also help you. And also, the use of pronouns is also allowed. In fact, it's going to get you a good score. So you can also use pronouns. Maybe you said John went to Faraday. Instead of saying John again, you say he. You understand? So it's also going to help you get a good score. Then grammatical range and accuracy, your ability to use a range and varieties of sentence structure and accuracy you have with your grammar. So your ability to use a range of sentence structure. We have different structures of sentence. We have the compound, you have the simple, we have the complex. Okay, so let me give you an example. If I said I am a female, I am a mother, I am a wife. So I've made simple sentences, 3 simple sentences. Simple sentences have one idea in it. I've just made 3. So if I now want to, maybe I said I am a mother and also a wife. I've given you 2 points. I've actually used a cohesive device. I've actually used a cohesive device. So I presented 2 ideas in one thing. So, and if I say, maybe I make a complex sentence and I said maybe somebody that just joined, please mute yourself so you don't distract others. Please mute yourself immediately. Okay, thank you very much for that. So like I was saying, so if I now say I am a mother, I'm also a wife, or maybe I am a mother and a wife. In addition, I'm also a girl or something like that. So I've actually used multiple cohesive devices to make my sentence longer and have more weight and more presentable. Okay, so I want to give you more clue about how to know different range of sentences going to. Okay. So this is just a what is it called? It's just an example or just a rough example of how a sentence is or the different range of sentences. So I think I'm going to maybe give you the examples in the group later. So this is just, and also of course you have to avoid punctuation errors. Sometimes, especially if you don't go through your work, you might actually must have made a lot of grammatical blunder, or maybe you've actually made a lot of errors with your punctuation. So it's also good for you to find time to go through your punctuation by the time you're done. So this section we are going to look at how essays are usually constructed. So we look at the parts of essay, IELTS essay questions, and analyzing the question. So the part of the essay opinion, identifying facts and opinion. An IELTS question will have at least one or more of the following. So your question will have the background fact. It will have one or more of these things: a background fact, an opinion, and a task. So background fact is a factual information about a situation or matter. In other words, it is something that is generally accepted as being true. Sometimes there are no facts in the question, only opinion and a task are given though. So then opinion, this is someone's view about a situation or issue. As it is an opinion, it's possible to agree or disagree with it. Sometimes there is no opinion in the question, only facts and the tasks are given. Then task 3, these are words telling you what to do. Okay, there may be more than one task in an essay, in which case both will need to be answered. So you have to know the differences. So it's going to help you, especially to know how many paragraphs. I know someone asked me, how many paragraphs? How do I know how many paragraphs I'm going to be doing? How do I know the points I'm going to develop? How do I know that? Okay, so and that's actually the basic thing I want us to learn here. So look at this question. They said, advances in technology and automation have reduced the need for manual labor. Therefore, working hours should be reduced. To what extent do you agree? So now, what is the question? What is it asking you to do? It has told you it has brought out the background information. Then what is it asking you? It's asking you, do you agree with what was said or do you disagree? So it's asking you for one thing. As it's asking you for one thing, you just writing one paragraph is not allowed. Writing just one paragraph to say you agree because of and just explain and give example is not allowed, because not that it's not allowed because it's a taboo, but because you're not going to meet up to the number of words you're supposed to write. So in this kind of question, that's just asking you one question, just is as if they just need you. Just like if I ask you, do you to what extent do you agree to this? Tell me, I seriously, I completely agree with this because it is the true thing. And for example, this is it. Yes, you've answered my question, you understand. But when after your work, by the time you read your work, might not be there is no way you approach 250 words. So it's allowed, it's advised, as it's asking for one thing. Give two reasons for your opinion for whatever you have accepted or you've agreed. So by the time you give two opinions, you talk about one in two reasons, sorry, you talk about one in body one and talk about the other one in body two. Now, I don't want you to be confused. Every essay, the minimum paragraphs you should have for your essay should be 4. 1 introduction, 2 body paragraphs, and 1 conclusion. So your at least that you did not write anything should be 4 paragraphs. So you're allowed to also write 5, but that's of course when you have a distinct point to elaborate on the 3rd paragraph. If you don't have, then it's absolutely not necessary. Okay. So identifying the part of the essay. So if you have an essay, of course, you have to try to identify, how do you know when this is the fact? How do you know this is opinion? How do you know this is a task? Okay. So let's look at, I think this is a question. So in many countries, the proportion of older person is increasing. So this is, remember that fact is general thing. How did they say background fact is a factual information about a situation or matter. In other words, it is something that is generally accepted as being true. Okay, something that almost everybody thinks or accepts that that's the truth is the fact. Okay, then opinion is, of course, when they ask you to what extent do you agree or disagree, what is your opinion, what do you think, so they ask you for opinion. Okay, so you have to also, it's very important you know the words they will use and you know that they are actually asking for opinion. Just assume your friend is asking you a question. Do you have to answer with your opinion? If I should tell you, what do you think about this? I think that means you have to give your opinion. Do you think that this is true? I think yes, you are going to give your opinion. So sometimes you can actually practicalize it. What if my friend asks me, to what extent do you agree? I completely agree. Oh, that means I have to give my opinion, because sometimes people have issues knowing when their opinion is sought. Then the task. Could this have more? Okay, now look at this. Could this have more positive or negative effect on society? Could this have? Yes, I think it will have. Okay, so this one is asked. This one is saying. This one say the best way to help developing country is to give them financial aid. Yeah, this is the fact, the general thing that people have been accepting. Okay, much. Then write an essay either agreeing or disagreeing with this statement, since it asks you to agree or disagree. So you're going to give your opinion. Suggest alternative to this policy. Yeah, this is the task, what they ask you to do. So this one have a task, asks you to suggest. Then this one says smoking is a habit that claims many lives and is a great drain on health services. One way to combat smoking would be to make it illegal. So this is what people generally believe. So it's a fact. Opinion. Okay, sorry. Then the next one say, what are the pros and cons of such a government policy? So is it asking you for your pros and cons? Is it asking you for what you think? No. It is asking you what is the pros and cons, what is the advantages and disadvantages of government policy. And then the next one say, what alternative strategies can you suggest to combat smoking? So it's asking you to suggest. So it's asking for your opinion. So this is also other ways. I suggest, I think, I would say. So it's coming from you. You're not stating the fact now. It is coming from you. Opinion is anything, any idea that, yes, you know that all the essay you're going to write it. But of course, if I should tell you what is the advantages and disadvantages of government policy, you're going to tell me generally what people think is the advantages and disadvantages. But by the time I say, what do you think are the advantages? So I want you to use the first person pronouns. I want you to use I think, I believe, I would say, I would suggest. You understand? So I am actually asking you. So I want you to know the difference when they are asking you a general thing and when they are asking you. So this particular one, of course, what are ideas? How many paragraphs can you likely have? So I'm quite interested in this number 3. So what did he ask? So what are the pros and cons of such a government policy? Pros is the advantages, 1. Cons is disadvantages, 2. So it's asking you for advantages and disadvantages, which are 2 things. Advantage is different from disadvantage. So it's 2 things. So you have 2 ideas for that. Then the next one say, what alternative strategy can you suggest to combat smoking? So it's asking you for strategies, 3. So what are the things he asked you? Advantages, disadvantages, strategy. So that means you're going to be making 3 paragraphs. 3 body paragraphs. Of course, when I'm talking, know that introduction and conclusion is indispensable, is always there, is a must. So when I'm saying 3 body paragraph, I'm actually talking about the body paragraphs. So that means you're going to talk about the first body paragraph should be about your advantages. Second body paragraph should be about the disadvantages. Then third body paragraph should now be about your opinion, your suggestion on how to combat smoking. So remember, they didn't say, for you to know when they're asking your opinion, the question is always directed to you. So if you look at what is the word here that made it to be directed to you, they said, what alternative strategy can you suggest? So they ask you to suggest. So they want you to say your opinion. Number 2, if you look at number 2, the way they wrote it, they said, suggest alternatives to these policies. So you have to suggest alternative. But this one, they say, can you suggest? Okay, can you suggest? It's more like so they're asking you to suggest. So number 4 says air transport is increasingly used to transport food and vegetables to other countries where they cannot be grown or are out of season. Some people say this is good, but others believe use of air transport for this purpose is not justified. So this is a general thing, what people think, what people are not thinking. So they said discuss both views and give your opinion. So discuss both views. That means you're discussing the views of the former people, the views of the latter people, and then your opinion. So you're discussing three things, and you're making three body paragraphs. Okay. Then discuss some possible reasons for this increase and suggest solutions. Okay, so this one is possible reasons. So you can also make this one is more like two reasons and of course suggestions. So in this one, you can decide to talk about the reasons in one body paragraph. Okay, this one is problem and solution. So problems, you can talk about the problems in body one, and then talk about the solutions in body two. So of course they said reasons. Even if you say you want to talk about two reasons and talk about one in body one, talk about one in body two, you are still talking reasons. So it's not different. So you can talk about the reasons in one body paragraph. You can use your cohesive devices like firstly or lastly, in addition, those things, and you can actually talk about it in one body paragraph. So let's move to the next unit, see if we can almost finish up today. So the next thing is about analyzing the question. So one of the most important tasks before you start your IELTS essay is to analyze the question. Unfortunately, many candidates rush this step or miss it altogether, resulting in a lower band score. If you look at the IELTS public band descriptor task response, you will see this is for band 5. Addresses the task only partially. So those, if you're stuck in band 5, probably you're not really addressing the task very well, maybe it's partial. This means that the question has not really fully been answered. So if you do not take time to carefully analyze and understand the question, you may only provide a partial answer to the task. Now let's look at this example. They said government investment in arts, such as music and theater, is a waste of money. That is a fact. Government must invest this money in public services instead. That's a fact. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? We will now look at the steps you should take before you start brainstorming ideas. Number one, you underline keywords in the question. Number two, you identify the topic. Number three, you focus on the details in the question and any restrictions. And then you identify the task, rephrase the question. So underlining keyword, how do you underline keyword? What you should get into the habit of doing is underline keyword in the question. This will help you to understand the question and make sure that you do not miss out any important thing that you should be discussing. Don't go to the next step. Yes, first think about what you would underline in the above question. Okay, so these are what you could identify: government investment, the art, waste of money, public services instead, agree or disagree. So these are keywords, okay? Things you have to talk about, things you have to think of their synonyms, or make sure that you attempt them, you answer them correctly, and of course you resolve this question. Okay, so identify the topic. So what you have underlined, when you have underlined some keywords or phrases, you should think about what the overall topic is. You should be able to state this is one of, or this in one or two words. So in this case, this is about government investment. Okay, so it's more like if they should ask you what is the topic, you could give to this. So what is the topic? What is this all about? That's what you can ask yourself. What is this all about? It's about government investment. Government investment. So it is important to establish what the overall topic is to ensure you to stay on topic when you answer the question. Some people will be answering, then they will move from art, and then they will be talking about music and theater, or they will be talking about waste of money. Have got you see some essays sometimes. Some people are more like digressing into governments and wasting money. or government should invest in public services instead. And the major thing, all the things that has been mentioned will just be ignored. So though this may seem obvious, many candidates start discussing ideas that are unrelated. This could, yes, I'm recording now. So this could significantly reduce your score. Then another thing is focus on the details in the question. The detail in the question. Look at the detail. Looking at the detail means looking more closely on the fact and opinions so that you can clearly you are clear about exactly what you should include in your essay and that you are not missing anything important. This is very important. Next step is, in order to clearly understand exactly what you need to write, and it will also help you brainstorm ideas for your essay. So we'll look at brainstorming in the next unit. Let's look at some of the important points you underline. Government's investment, of course, this is a topic. Arts, such as music and theater, is waste of money. So art is a waste of money. Government must invest in public services instead. So yes, you can focus on the details. Details, all these things are details. Sometimes don't just get carried away and talk about only government investment. Look at the details in it. Government investment is broad. It could be government investment in banks. It could be government investment in markets. It could be government investment in insurance. But this is there are still things that are specific that you have to also take note of. Okay, so that means you must discuss government spending in relation to these factors: the arts, such as music, theater, dance, and public services, things such as health, education, police, housing. If you write your whole essay about why investing in art is not a waste of money, but make no difference to spending on public services, you will not have fully answered the question. I'm sure that you must have, I know if you are sincere to yourself, you know that you've actually made some of these mistakes, especially when they say some people think about this, while others think about this. Sometimes, because you've accepted to talk about what these people think about, you might actually ignore the other part of the essay. You understand? So you have to be able, you have to try to answer all the questions, okay? Try to incorporate all the keywords. So this is a common mistake to miss key things that need to be discussed. Then considering topic restriction, here is another tip to help you answer the question correctly. As there is another error candidates sometimes make, that means they do not answer the question properly, which again may lead to a lower score. You need to decide if the topic has been narrowed down or restricted to more specific group of people, place, or circumstances. Okay, some question, some people will tell you, writing is actually cheap. I don't know why it's hard for people to get band score. Every module of Ielts is tricky. Just have that in your mind, that once you see any question they give you, what are they tricking? What is the trick here? You understand? Ask yourself that question. Ielts is tricky. They will actually want to play on your intelligence. So don't think, okay, it's just for me to answer this. So why is it I'm not getting all the band score? You understand? So sometimes it might be that this thing was actually narrowed to some people, and then you're talking on it as broad topic, or maybe it's actually presented as a broad topic and you're talking about it in a narrowed way. So always ask yourself, is this narrowed down or restricted to a specific people or a specific point or a specific things, or is it what is it called? Is it an open question? You understand? So in the question above, it is restricted to discussing government spending on the arts and public services, which we have already noted. You cannot start discussing government spending on aid, for example, as this is not a public service. This will be off point. Let's look at another question to show you when there is restriction. What is the topic, and has it been restricted to certain group? I wish there is a way I can cover this part so that you will not be looking at the expo I wanted to ask question. So this says percentage of obesity, see, overweight, obesity, synonyms. So, okay. Sometimes when I see some word now, synonym will be popping into my head. So, percentage of overweight children in Western society has increased by almost 20% in the last 10 years. Discuss them. Discuss the causes and effects of this disturbing trend. So this one is cause and effect. Okay. So topic, what is this all about? It's about obesity. And coincidentally, I didn't even look at this topic. Oh, I just say that coincidentally, I didn't look at this topic. I just looked at the question instead of overweight, obesity popped in. Okay, so the topic is obesity. And is it restricted to some people? Yes, it is restricted to children in Western countries. Okay, so you have to talk about it for children in Western countries. Think about what makes up Western country. Instead of you to come and write up points, if you don't know what makes up the Western country, you can keep it there. West Africa, North Africa, West countries. What are West countries? It's true. What are the Western countries? So you can, if you feel you know Western countries, you can actually and maybe decide to be more detailed by mentioning some of them. But if you know you don't really have an idea of the Western countries, what they're all about, then I'll just advise you not to. Okay, so when you talk about Western countries, you have countries like United States. There's no West Africa. It's more like in the continent, West of countries like United States, Canada, France, Germany, Australia, Ghana, Spain, United Kingdom, Finland, Belgium, Iceland, Denmark, Kiniko. Okay. So that's the restriction. It has to, don't come and be talking about the obesity or obesity in your country, that maybe in the Eastern Africa or Nigeria, you now be pointing out things when you are supposed to talk about in the Western world. So either ways, as you can see, you should be writing about obese children, not obesity generally, and writing about the problem in Western society. So I want you to note this. You did not understand me. I'm sure you didn't. It's restricted to obese children, not obesity. Talking about adult obesity. Okay, it's about obese children. Please take care of her. Take care of him. Sorry, my phone wanted to go off. I had to go to the panel. Charge while we discuss. Okay, so it's restricted to obese children as well as to the Western countries. So either way, as you can see, you should be writing about obese children, not obesity generally, okay? And writing about the problem in Western society, not other parts of the world, okay? So if you discuss things outside of these restrictions, you will not be answering the question properly. This may seem obvious, but again, it is very common to see candidates miss these other factors and therefore write a response that does not fully address the task. Now, I know that, yes, sometimes, in fact, my speaking, my writing, I don't usually tell stories of what is true. If I want to, if I'm doing speaking, most times I can even be lying. The only thing is, you're allowed to frame something, maybe, because some people will say, I only know about transportation in my countries. You can actually talk about, but the only thing is, when you're saying, let it be assumed that it is on West Africa or something. I don't know if you're getting the point I'm making now. Maybe they say that what are the things that causes traffic in the Western world? Now I don't know. Maybe I've not been to the Western world. Maybe I've not been to the Western world, and I don't know what causes traffic there, if there is. But I don't really know. But I know in my country, one of the things that causes traffic is that a lot of cars are always on the road at a particular time. So I could say probably that is what causes traffic there. Number one, maybe cars are always on the road in the morning. Nobody is, it's not, they're not going to come and carry research and say, it's not true, it's not, no, they want you to present that information. But yes, you should know that you're bounded about this particular thing. And of course, you should always keep that in mind, that this is where I should be talking, and you assume you're talking about that place. I don't know if you understand. So they're not going to make research to be sure that the examples you gave are real. They're not going to make research to see that the places you mentioned are true. Of course, there are some exceptions, okay? There are some exceptions. You don't have to talk about Western world and then you say you're talking about Africa. It's just common sense. I think Ielts is more like a common sense. Some informations that, of course, are obviously something that is personal. You can actually decide to frame stuff, but also there are some information that are specific and is known worldwide that you can't actually try to manipulate. So if we discuss things outside this restriction, you will not be answering the question properly. So this may seem obvious, but again, it is very common to see candidates miss all the factors and therefore write response that does not fully address the task. Of course, when you are nervous and under pressure, it seems to me you seem to miss this point. This is why it is so important to spend time carefully looking at the question and underline the words and phrases before you start. Of course, you should know what you're looking for. That's one important thing. You want to identify the topic. You want to identify the keywords. You want to talk about identify if there is a restrictions. Okay, so once you know all these things, of course, it's going to help you to know what you're going to write about. So note the things you're supposed to know. I'm sure you're writing it down. Okay, so note the things you're supposed to identify. Then another thing, identify the task. Once you've identified the topic ideas, then make sure you are very clear exactly what the task is. As we saw in Unit 1, a question will always have a task because it is the part that tells you exactly what you need to do. These are common tasks to see. What are the advantages and disadvantages of, let's say, the topic? Do the benefits of this trend outweigh the drawbacks? To what extent do you agree or disagree? Discuss both opinions and your opinion. What are the causes of and what measures can government, and individual attempt to respond to this problem? What are some of the problems? What can be done to reduce? These are more like two-part question. Or problem solution too. How important is it for individual countries to think about the future rather than focusing on the present? In this example, the task is the whole question. So again, it is common for candidates to completely miss a point they are being asked to discuss. So you need to look at the task very carefully. Okay, you are often being broadly asked to look at two things. For example, advantages and disadvantages, causes and solutions, problems and solutions, opinion 1 and opinion 2, which is more like discuss both views. Okay. But the golden rule is always read the question carefully, as it may not fit this pattern. Once you are clear about the purpose of the essay, you will be able to brainstorm and plan properly, as the tasks will relate directly to your plan. We will look at this further in Unit 3. Look at the example question. It says government investment in arts such as music and theater is a waste of money. Government must invest money in public services instead. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? So in this question, you're being asked to what extent do you agree or disagree? So the this tells you that you need to be developing an argument. Therefore, you need to decide what your opinion is and find reasons to support that opinion. So you have to brainstorm. Now you know that your opinion is needed, and you have to identify key things that must be included. These are the kind of things you need to think about and discuss in your essay. For art, you can think about how can the art benefit people? How can they suffer without them? Um, why do they need to be publicly funded? What would happen to art companies without funding? Then public services. What are some examples of public services? Why are they so important? Are they so important that money from elsewhere should be diverted here? So rephrasing the question is also more simple, is very important in a more simple way. Focused question. So when you are sure you understand the question, you may wish to write it in a more simple way. Again, this can help you to focus on what you want to write about and to brainstorm. So we will look at how to focus question in Unit 3. So now this paraphrasing is simply you writing this same thing, the facts that they've stated. Now I know you know that a question have one or two parts of either fact, opinion, and task. It's going to have at least one or two, or at least two, or all of this. So you know that the fact, of course, is the general thing, the general statement, the general belief. So that is the what you're going to write in your own way, in your own words. You're going to try to write it in your own word. So look at this. They said government investment. Okay, we've read it severally. Then simplify. Say, should the government invest money for art into public services instead? So the percentage of overweight children in Western society has increased by almost 20% in the last 10 years. And that way you can also paraphrase it. Is sorry, this is rephrasing. Sorry, rephrasing is just you say it in a simple way, kind of asking yourself question when you're trying to brainstorm. So paraphrasing is of course when you're writing it differently in your paper. So said, why has children obesity in Western society increased? What are the effects of increased child obesity? Okay, why? You have to know the causes. Why tells you the causes. What are the effects? Tells you the effects of the disturbing trend. So that's the questions you can ask yourself that will help you to brainstorm. Sorry, that's what will help you to brainstorm to know what are the answers to the question and what you will be developing in your essay. Then brainstorming. Many people study for Ielts. Study for Ielts say they cannot come up with ideas to answer the question and want the teacher to help with this. This may be okay in classroom, but it won't help you in the test. So what you do to help you with the part of writing, here are the three tips: reading, relaxing, developing a focus question. So read as much as you can. Okay. So when you come across especially essays in IELTS, you can read those things, especially when it's coming from an examiner or a tutor. Try to read, gather the ideas, and it's going to help you to also have possible ideas you can talk about in some type of questions. Okay, then you need to relax. For one thing that will help you to function well is when you're relaxed. Sometimes you'll be imagining, if I'm at home, if I'm talking with someone, I flow so well. I don't even stop. I see myself talking as much as possible. In fact, sometimes my friends call me parrot. So what happens when I'm taking my speaking test is as if I'm blank. That's most times because you are not relaxed. The brain functions well when you're relaxed. So a good way to help yourself is to do the deep breathing exercise. Take a deep breath. Assume you are in that your comfort zone. Assume you are, of course, you're in charge. So you are in charge. Okay, so you know that everything they ask you, everything they're going to ask you, you already know them. There is nothing they will ask you that you, in fact, IELTS is not a fail, or you don't fail because you don't know a topic. Is how you address it, is what, especially in speaking, is how you address it. So you don't fail because you hear somebody, maybe he doesn't know anything about culture in Western world. Imagine there was a question someone asked, okay, about said what do Indians watch in the speaking? What do Indians watch? He's not an Indian. I've not really thought about that. I'm not an Indian, but I would rather say what we watch here in Nigeria. Most Nigerians like to watch Z Word, which is an Indian movie, and he did not get a low band score because they're not marking you because you did not. He doesn't know what Indians watch. Oh, that is -2. No, it is how you answer the question. So that's still the same thing. Those questions, yes, is something that if your friend meets you and asks you, why do you think government should do this? You will surely answer your friend. So think at top, there must be something you have, as long as you live in this world, there must be something you have to talk about that particular topic. Okay? So you will usually do best when you're relaxed. So you can actually do a deep breathing exercise. Just breathing deeply, just like as if you're relieved. It helps you to stay relaxed and focused. And of course, before you leave, see yourself stand in front of your mirror, make good words, say good words to yourself, and be confident. Once you're walking in there, be confident. And of course, another thing that will ensure your confidence is when you practice. So practice as much as you can. Don't say I am learning, it's all in my head, I will do it, I can do it in the exam hall. You never can tell what you're doing wrong. So practice. By the time you practice, and also read what other people practice, help to check, okay, see, you did it wrong here. So by the time now you tested, you sent your work, and maybe the coach, the IELTS coach, went through and gave you correction, and there may be something that he or she didn't spot. But if your colleague or maybe those members say, look at how she wrote is wrong, or maybe this your B looks like a no, you see that you will take note of that. So when you practice, only when you practice and put, and that you'll be able to see that. And also, it is when you participate in vetting other people's work, especially noting some grammatical errors or stuff, the ones you could do can also help to go a long way. So it's going to not just help you, it's also going to help others to amend their ways and get a better vetting of their work. Then use focus question, using focus question. So as we have discussed already, rather, you can develop focus question using with a simplification of the essay question. This will help you to brainstorm, as it will make sure you focus on exactly what you need to write to ensure you're answering the question. So here is an example that you have already seen from the previous unit. So should the government invest money for arts in public services? Should government invest money? What is even should they invest money in arts? What is art? You understand? It's going to help you to get answers to your question, and of course see what you could talk about. Then look at this. Said a wide variety of vegetarian food is now available. However, although an increasing number of people are adopting a vegetarian diet, it is not healthy. To what extent do you agree with this question? So, is vegetarian diet healthy? That's the question you should ask yourself. If it is not healthy, then it's better you completely disagree. But if it is healthy, then you can actually agree with this sentence. So we've all gone through this. So this is how you can actually arrange your work in your exam. What is the topic sentence? What are the narrowing down to the point? What is any restriction? What is the task? What is the focus question? Then, these are how you can actually plan yourself during that planning stage. Okay. And of course, I also advise you to get the keywords that you've marked. Think of synonyms to those keywords. It's also going to help you to make good vocabularies. And here, Okay. So, if you ask yourself this question, should government invest money for art into public service instead? Why should government, why do you want government to invest money in art, into arts, for arts, into public services? Maybe ideas that could flew in, most money should be spent on public services, includes hospital. It is that is going to help to improve quality of life. So by the time you, or maybe you say no, you think about the reasons why you answered no. So by the time you've gotten all this, you can actually pick the most appropriate, the one you know that you have much points to talk about. So as you can see, the two sides of the argument presented in the question have made up the main idea of each paragraph. So if you're talking about the no, yes, you have ideas to talk about. If you're talking about yes, you have ideas to talk about. These have been supported with a mix of example and effects. We'll look at building good paragraph and developing support later on the book. So now take a look at the model answer to see how this has been turned into an essay. So the introduction says currently most governments spend a large part of their budgets not only on public services but also the arts. Also, although it is necessary to channel a proportion of government money towards the sector, most should be spent on public services. Then in body one, it is important that government spend a significant amount of budget on public services. Yes, it is affirming. Then the budget, the number two is saying, however, now you're using however because you're going to talk about the opposite. This does not mean that the arts should be completely neglected. Firstly, it's difficult for many art institutions. Okay, so that is the first answer under the no. Must not neglect art, cannot generate their own profits, you understand? And then your conclusion. We've not gone into it deeply, so I just wanted to see where it is analyzed. Okay. In my opinion, some government money should be spent on art, but most should be spent on public services. Idea you talk about the one on public services. Idea in number two you talk about the one on art, and then your conclusion. And see that he cited reasons there. Okay, so reason one for the first idea, give example. Okay, then give the effect, and then also the conclusion. Now this, I call it link, because if I say conclusion, then it's just link, more like linking it back, but it's just a mini conclusion of the idea you've presented in a particular paragraph. Then in paragraph two, there is reasoning, there is example, reason two, example, reason three. Then you conclude. Then your introduction and conclusion is very important, because of course this gives an idea of what you're going to write or how your essay is going to look like. Some students spend a lot of time writing an introduction to an essay and then don't finish the essay because they run out of time. You need to write a good introduction in order to have a coherent essay. But most of the mark on the Ielts grading sheet do not come from the introduction. Most of them focus on the paragraphs, example, their coherency, and whether in ideas are extended and supported. So you need to write your introduction quickly. And here are some tips on how that have a good look at the question. It says, fresh water has always been a limited resource in some parts of the world. Today, however, growing worldwide demand has made this a global problem. What are the causes of the increased demand, and what measures can governments and individuals take to respond to the problem? So you need to do two things. Give some background to the topic and refer to the topic of the essay using some facts taken from the question if they are included. Reverse some of the information, paragraph, paraphrase, and use some synonyms. Tell the reader what will be in your essay. So now, this is simply, first one is paraphrasing. Okay, so paraphrasing, you have to paraphrase. You can first of all give a background statement. Just what is the topic sentence? You can actually use the topic of the essay. topic of the essay to make a background statement. You can actually include one or two things from the whole question. Then you can reverse some of the information. Now, instead of, if they said fresh water has always been a limited resource in some part of the world, you could actually reverse it by saying some part of the world, or in the universe, or in some part of the universe, or in some part of the world, or some part of the world, in some part of the universe, in a fraction of the universe. It's believed that limited resources. Now, I've not gotten this. I'm just going to tell you. Of course, you try to change the words, but I'm just going to tell you what reversing is. Maybe in some part of the world, limited resources has always been okay. In some part of the world, their limited resource is usually fresh water. So fresh water has always been a limited resource in some parts of the world. In some parts of the world, the limited resource, or maybe you could say the limited resources in some parts of the world is usually fresh water. So it mustn't be from the way they started it. Okay, you can actually reverse the sentence. You can actually reverse and also paraphrase, change the words, you can actually change the words, you can actually reverse, start from the beginning or start from the end, and turn the question. Okay, so it helps you to get different range of sentences. Okay, that could help you to get that. Then another thing after doing that is to tell the reader what will be in your essay. Of course, that is your outline sentence. Outline sentence is what it will be, an outline of what will be in your paragraph. It's very important. It's in your introduction. Now, once your reader reads your introduction, you should have an idea of what you're going to talk about in the paragraph. Don't be writing, my ideas will be discussed in the paragraph and my opinion given in conclusion. Please, it has to be elucidated in the. It has to be actually said, pointed out in your introduction. So let's look at the introduction here. Say, in some area around the world, there has always been a lack of water, but this is now a global problem due to growth in worldwide demand. See how they turned it. They started from the world, in some area of the world, they turned it, and then they see how they twisted it. But you make sure that the part of the essay that you've underlined should all be evident in the essay you've written. Then the outline, that's what will be in the essay. It says several factors have led to this increase, but there are measures that government and individuals can take to solve this problem. So yes, that means you're going to talk about the causes, that's the factors that have caused this increase. That is several. You said several factors. That means you're going to talk about it. And then another thing you said, but there are measures. That means you're going to talk about the measures also that government and individual can take to solve the problem. So you're talking about two things: the causes and the cause and the effect. Okay, so you should also don't always make a sentence. See how the sentence is made. Some people make sentence that doesn't have weight. Some people will say, in this essay, the causes and effects will be discussed. That is the old fashioned, please. Excuse me. So that is old fashioned. You could say, look at this. It says several. Thank you, my love. It says several factors have led to this increase, but there are measures that governments and individuals can take to solve this problem. You could say there are plethora of factors. I love that word, plethora. It means a lot. Instead of saying a lot, several. Too many. Can use plethora. Is a very nice word. There are plethora of factors that have led to this increase, and try to be, but there are measures that governments and individuals can take to solve this problem. Don't keep saying, don't be writing this essay we discuss, or maybe the problem and solution will be discussed in the paragraph. No, now that is old fashioned. Try to be more, you understand? Okay, so the first sentence introduces the topic and information is taken from the question, but you must paraphrase. Don't copy from the question. You must paraphrase. Reverse, if possible, reverse the sentence and still paraphrase. You know, there is, if I can tell you, John ate the soup, and then that same question, I can tell you, the soup was eaten by John, and I can still tell you, the person that ate the soup is John. So the first one I started from soup, second one I started from John, third one I started from soup. So you're getting different kinds of sentence. You understand? These kind of things, they bust brain. So that is some of, no, they are kind of detailed. All these things, they are taking note of them. So try to also show that so you're trying to show that you can actually make good use of all those different sentence ranges. And of course, remember your sentence should also include simple sentence, range of sentence. Now, the sentence type is different from range of sentence. Just like range, they say range. There is a range that is shorter, that is simple sentence, a range that is moderate, compound, a range that is longer. Of course, range is from something to something, you understand? Range of sentence is different, but sentence types, you can actually start from the action word, you can start from the subject, you can start from the predicate. So you can start from the object they talked about, or the predicate. You can start from the subject that they are talking about. You can start from the action word. Maybe the person that carried, the thing was carried by, or the carrier of this. Just, you can always twist your sentence like that. That is different sentence types. So use different sentence types, use different range of sentences. It's going to help you to get a good mark score in your sentence. So sentence, when they say a grammatical range and accuracy, it's not just talking about compound, complex, and simple sentence. It also means different sentence types should also be. And then a good way to start is to start from this one. Reverse. You can start from the object or the predicate. You can start from this thing. Okay. So let me, for benefit of those that don't understand what I'm saying about predicate and clinical. So look at this. He said, the question says fresh water has always been limited resource in some parts of the world. So what is the subject of this talk? Subject is what is the main thing this thing is talking about. It's talking about fresh water. So what is the action word? Action word is action, of course, verb is action word. What is the action word? Limited. So to say always being limited, because you have things, action word, sometimes you will get a preposition, things that will tell you to what extent. So always is there. I don't know. It's like I'll use highlights because this my underline. Okay, so you see, all being limited is action word though, but of course, you have things that will tell you to what extent. Then what are the predicates? Resource is some part of the word. So this sentence, you can actually start from the subject, you can start from the action word, you can start from the predicate. You can say start from this one that they started from the predicate, the word in some area of the world. You can also start from the subject, fresh water. You can also start from saying limited resources in some part of the country is usually fresh water. You started from the action word. So these are ways you can get different range of sentences. Okay. Then the second sentence tells the reader exactly what will be in essay. Here is another example with different type of questions. So this one says, because many problems we face today affect our whole planet, good relationship between countries are becoming more important than ever before. So what is this all about? What is the topic sentence? I think it's talking about good relationships. Talking about the main thing is about relationship, especially between countries. It's more like relationship between some countries is more like what this thing is all about. Okay, so let's look at how they change the sentence. Say in these days, many of the problems that that we are experiencing are global problems. So they have an effect on the whole world. So where did they start? I think they still started from the how they didn't really reverse. I don't think they did, but at least the sentence got shorter. Another important thing is when you paraphrase, your sentence should be shorter than the statement. Please, when you paraphrase, the paraphrase thing is expected to be shorter than the thing that was said, because it's more like you've read it and then you're giving a summary of what it is. Okay, so of course with all the details, so it should be shorter, just like what you see. I think it's shorter, so it should. And then there are therefore several reasons why I believe that it is of the utmost importance that countries have the relationship with each other. There are several factors why I believe so that it is utmost important that countries have good relationship with each other. So you see, it actually gave details of what it is talking about. Countries have good relationship, so which is the topic of the sentence. So you can also make your sentence better by including your reasons. Maybe there are pictorial reasons why I believe that the utmost important that it is of utmost important that countries have good relationship with each other. Uh, Picture or and they are pitches or this and this. You can actually go that far too. It's also accepted. But of course, you don't explain, just point it and then you explain them, each of them in point two, and then explain each of them in your body one and body two. Then conclusion, like your introduction, your conclusion should be quick and easy to write. There are three things you need to do. Use a transition to show it is conclusion. Okay, transition things like to summarize, to sum up, to recap, and to recapitulate. I believe yes, that's also another word you can actually use. Okay, so to summarize, to sum up, in conclusion, to conclude, to recapitulate. Recapitulate is also the same thing as summarize. To reiterate. Okay, so those are things you could use to sum up. But I like that word recapitulate. So to sum up, it is evident that although a number of factors are resulting in an increased demand for water, solutions to tackle the problem are always are available to governments and individuals. It is imperative that the issue be resolved as soon as possible to avoid the potential danger to mankind that the lack of fresh water could bring. So this is still the same thing as what is in the introduction, just that it is still changed. Okay, so here you can actually make your own examples. Okay, Unit 6, developing strong paragraphs quickly. So 40 minutes is not much time to write a whole essay, even though it is only a short essay. You need to do the following things in your 40 minutes. You need to analyze the question, brainstorm ideas, organize your ideas, write the essay, check the grammar, and also remember that when you're writing, some people prefer to write with start with task 2. Remember that when you're writing, nobody's going to come and tell. Most times they will tell you when it's 20 minutes left, and maybe you started with task 1 and you're writing task 1 and relax. By the time you hear 20 minutes left, you now rush to your task 2. It used to happen to some people. Yeah. So or maybe sometimes you were just busy writing a task 2, you are very, very relaxed. And then by the time they say 20 minutes left, you are still writing paragraph 2. So what would you do? You will not have to rush, rush, rush. So don't always feel relaxed in what you're in IELTS. Don't relax, especially in your reading. Don't feel relaxed. Don't think you have time. Do not be relaxed. So organize your ideas, write the essay, check the grammar. So it is common for students to either miss or spend few minutes on part 1 to 3 as the temptation to start writing as soon as possible. So this is a big mistake you should not do. If you do, you are in danger of not answering the question properly, having poor idea, producing badly organized, incoherent essay. So it is quality, not quantity. Okay, so remember, you only lose mark if you don't write up to 200 words. So for people that write up to 300, 400, nobody is giving extra mark. It is quality of your essay, not quantity of your essay. Then remember to give reasons, example, and results. That is mostly what your paragraph is all about. Your body paragraphs. Okay. So in this type of paragraph, you use this to support your ideas, the reason, the example, the results. Those are things that can. How do you state reasons? This is because this is why, it is caused by. How do you state your example? For instance, for example, to illustrate, how do you give results? Resulted to the resultant effect, it led to the prognosis is. So those are ways you can actually talk about results, or the effect is. Okay. So of course your idea should be clear and non-ambiguous. So how do you develop your paragraph? Give one idea. Give a reason why this idea is true. Give an example to it. Say what implication or effects of this example are, for example, and then you conclude it. So, for example, the idea now, say people's lives are much more confident. Reason, this is because we are able to do many things without having to stay at the office or home. Sometimes this is extremely important given the busy lifestyle of today. Example, for example, most people blah 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 blah. As a result, people blah 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 blah. Conclusion, there is no doubt that you understand. So these are ways, a good way you can develop your essay. What is the idea you want to talk about? What is the reason? What is the example? What is the result? The resultant effect or the result. Okay, as a result, conclusion. You don't really need to say to conclude, because this is not your final conclusion. But of course, what you said should point out that you're linking it back to whatever you've said. So it's more like, because of this, there is no doubt, or therefore, there is no doubt that. Okay. So let's look at it all together here. I said the main benefits of modern technology is that people's lives are much more confident. So that is the idea. This is because that is the reason. For example, that is the example, as a result, and then the last sentence. So how many sentences are you going to make? 5 sentences in your body one. So you can make roughly 4 to 5 sentences in your body paragraphs. So when you're brainstorming and you're making your notes, this is how you can actually make your note. What is the idea? Why? Which is, of course, the reason why you of that idea. The examples, you can think about what would give as example, the resultant effect, and then conclusion. So you can actually make that rough sketch on your paper to help you get a good paragraph. So returning back to the elements of good paragraph, unity, development, coherence, you see that both paragraphs have all these elements. Unity means the paragraph is focused around one idea. I told you that each paragraph should have a single idea it is addressing. So the convenience that modern technology has brought to life. Then development, the idea is developed by the use of reasons, examples, and effects. Okay, all these other sentences relate to the support the main idea. Then coherence, the paragraph is easy to read as it follows a logical progression and the reader is guided through each part. With transition and discourse makers is the same thing as cohesive devices, okay, such as this, because, for example, and as a result. So these things help the person to transit from one sentence to the other and makes your work coherent and they make you get a logical progression. Sorry. So now another question people ask is, which type of paragraph should I choose? This will depend on how many ideas you have and also the essay question. I've said that earlier. You can think about what are the things they ask you. For example, if you have a question that asks you to discuss problem and solution connected to urbanization, you clearly need to mention more than one problem and more than one solution. So a multiple idea paragraph will be better. If you're giving a multiple idea paragraph means maybe one paragraph you're talking about two things, the other paragraph you're talking about two things. Okay, but yes, this particular one, I think it should be two paragraphs. If you're giving your side of argument on an issue, you can still use multiple ideas, reasons to support your opinion, but you may have one excellent idea that you feel fully support your argument. You may then want to use an expanded idea paragraph to fully explain it, or even three excellent ideas, and you may want to explain each one in fully in a separate paragraph, and thus have three body paragraphs. Okay, so this one, if they ask you to what extent do you agree, your own side of the argument, you can actually have more than one opinion, and of course you want to develop it. You have strong opinions, you talk about one in body one in body two. Like I told you, talking about one, if they ask you just for your opinion, doesn't really make sense because you might not get up to the number of words you need. And sometimes they'll ask you discuss both sides and give your opinion. Yes, you can actually discuss each side. Once you discuss the side, you talk your opinion in the same paragraph. Also, you can talk about each side differently and then fully devote one paragraph to your own what's it called, your own idea. Now we are going to practice what we've learned so far, okay, and then continue from where we stopped. So with this, we've learned how to write paragraph: introduction, body one, body two, and body three. So we are going to practice, okay? And I'll be sending down the question on the group. Please do well to practice. Before then, do you have a question? You can ask your question, please. Yes, please go ahead. Is someone asking question? Okay, so I think we'll call it a day. If you have question, you can put it on the group, okay? Yes, I will send the recorded to the group. All right, see you all. Our reading class, I don't think it will hold today again. It's 12. It's always 12, okay? 12 tomorrow. Tomorrow is Saturday, sorry. No reading on weekends, sorry. But I'm going to send the answers to what we've done to the group so that we can score ourselves. All right. All right, see you all. Please, I'm going to drop lots of things to practice so you keep yourself busy over the weekend. All right, see you.